Alrighty guys, welcome back. This is your host, Tidy Jester. We're going to look at another character here in Lords of Fate, another deep delve into the character and behind the scene. And hopefully you watched our previous episode where we looked at Grey Rock and what he can do and what he can bring to the party of adventurers. Now we're going to be looking at dun 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 Vorheart, the human fighter. As you can see over there on the right hand side, he comes in with 2 extra red sets and 1 green set. He has 30 life points. And now let's look at his special abilities. Special ability down here at the bottom, Vorheart can play 1 skill card each activation without it costing an action. So he's able to play a skill card basically for free. It doesn't cost an action. It does cost him the resources, the fate to bring it in, but it doesn't cost him an action, which means he can bring in a skill card, pay for it, and then still get 2 more actions. Oh, that seems so broken. What is going on with these characters? I tell you. Hopefully you enjoyed our last episode. We looked at Grey Rock and we got the chance to deep delve into them. I've been working hard on getting all these cards so that you don't have to see them in just black and white and generic alpha mode. And I was up late last night working on it. And I got quite a few cards done for him. So converted over into a nice graphic format. So in appreciation for all my hard work that I've done for you guys, I would love it if you just hit that like button. Leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you think of this character. Let us know what you think of the process. Let us know what you think of the game so far. And that would be a great help to me. And I'd really appreciate it. So I'm putting a lot of time and effort into this. So I'm hoping that you guys appreciate it, and is show me your appreciation by just hitting that like button. Let me know, leave me a comment, and let me know what you see. So I wanted to get this out as soon as possible. That's why I was up super late last night working on it, because I know yesterday when we looked at Grey Rock, it was like you don't have anything to really compare him to. You don't have another character to say, oh, well, yeah, I like this one over that one, or I think they work well together, or whatever, because you don't have anything to compare it to. So I wanted to give you something to compare it with. So Vorheart, I can play a skill card each activation without it costing an action. So whenever their initiative card is drawn, that is your time to activate your activation. Of course, you get your 1 hero fate, and then you would get 2 actions for Vorheart here. He also gets an action where he can play a skill card without it costing an action. And as his action, you can see Vorheart can spend 1 red fate to search his deck for a weapon or armor card and put that card into his hand. So if he's doesn't get any of the decent armor or weapons that he's going to have in his deck, being a fighter, he's going to have quite a few different armor and different weapon pieces to be using. So if he doesn't get any of those, he can just spend a red fate, search his deck, and again, costs him an action to do that. So literally, he can buff himself up really quickly by spending some actions to get a weapon, spend some actions to get his armor, spend an action to get his helmet, and get a spare weapon or whatever. And then he's ready to go. So let's take a look at his cards. I got quite a few cards, so I don't know how much we'll delve into each individual one. But let's just see how it goes. So first of all, we talked about his special ability to go into his deck and grab that armor and weapons. Well, here's one of the cards he might want to do that with. He's got split mail. It costs 3 red fate to bring this in. You can also gather 1 red fate if you choose. And it has the special ability Armor 1. So Armor 1 is a red faded special ability. Only red cards can have the armor capability. Basically, it's going to give them a damage reduction of 1 against any attacks. And of course, if you watched our Grey Rock episode yesterday, green will actually be able to bypass this with their piercing ability, so they can pierce through the armor and just ignore that. So that's how green interacts with red. It also has a special use ability where you can take 2 less damage from a green attack. So you always get at least 1 damage reduction with this in play. And occasionally, once a round, if you're attacked by a green character, green faded character, you're able to reduce that damage by 2 instead of 1. So it is a use power. So like we talked about yesterday, use powers don't take an action, and they are once a round abilities. So that should be interesting how that comes out to play. So being a fighter, he's going to be probably targeted more than the other characters, the upfront fighter. So having some kind of damage reduction right off the bat is really good. So let's see. Let's go along with his armor. Let's go ahead and go right into his second piece of armor here. This is the Eagle Winged Helmet. Again, very expensive. 3 fate. 3 red fate to bring this in. Or you can actually gather fate on this for 3 reds. You can never take more than 4 points of damage from any attack. So if you have this out in front of you and you take a damage of 6, 7, 8, whatever, it's automatically reduced down to 4 because of the special ability. It also has a use power on it. So again, use powers don't cost an action. And you can use them once per round, where attack an enemy that just attacked you and do 2 red damage to that enemy. So get the helmet out. It helps protect you from taking on a damage, and you can attack an enemy that just attacked you and do a nice bit of damage to it. Again, Vorheart is going to be all about damaging and causing enemies to attack him and get lots of actions out there so that he can actually do lots of damage to the enemies, as we'll see as we go through the rest of his cards here. So there is his armors. Now he also has, let's look at a weapon here. There's a weapon. He has the old longsword. It's a 2 red fate to get this into play, or 1 red fate if you gather it. Gather fate with it. It is got the taunting keyword, which means when you hit an enemy with this, they will automatically target you the next time they act before the end of the round. And as an action, you can do a weapon attack and do 3 red damage to one enemy. And they will target Vorheart, and their damage will be at -1. So they will automatically target Vorheart after he attacks them, and because they've been taunted, they have a damage. Their damage is -1. So it's a good way to force enemies into attacking the fighter of the group. The taunting ability, I think we'll see several of the cards that he has that'll do this. But of course, getting this weapon into play and forcing the enemies to attack him. He's got the most hit points of everyone that we've created so far. Being a fighter, he should. Plus, he's got the damage reduction. Plus, when he taunts enemies, they do less damage to begin with. So, yeah. All right, so let's move on to, let's see. What are we going to do? Let's go down the line here. Let's go with this one. So you notice this is a skill. So this is one of the cards he could play for free every round, or every activation, I guess I should say. It's 2 red fate to use it, and 2 red fate when you gather with it. When doing a weapon attack, do the same weapon damage -1 to a different enemy. Because he's cleaving, get it? He's hitting multiple enemies at the same time. So if he was to do, say, 4 damage to one enemy, he'd do 3 damage to another enemy. And so he can get this in, if he chooses, once a round for free because of his special ability. Cleave, that is. All right, let's go to the other one, which is going to work really well for him. This is the old action surge. Well, you probably know by the title what that's going to do. It only costs one. It costs an action to play it because it is a skill. And it costs 1 fate, 1 red fate. You could, of course, gather 2 red fate with it. But when you play this card, you can perform 2 more actions. Only 1 action surge can be played during an activation because there's multiple in his deck. So he's able to actually use this to get multiple actions. In fact, because this is a skill, he could actually use this as his free card, get 2 more actions plus his original 2 actions, so he could be up to 4 actions that he's able to perform. So obviously that is super good, but of course you need to manage your fate to be able to get all those actions into play, or playing the cards that you need to play. You have to have plenty of fate to do that. So this works really well for Vorheart. Of course, other characters, this is actually out of the Surging Attacks. You can see down at the bottom there. This is a group called Surging Attacks. So somebody else that was a red hero and got access to the red faded cards, they could choose this, and it might not work quite as well for them because they probably don't have the special ability that Vorheart has, where he can play 1 skill without it costing an action. So playing this card doesn't cost him an action, but it would cost somebody else an action. So somebody else that used this card would get 3 actions that round. He actually gets 4 actions this round if he uses it. If he uses this as his special card. So action surge. Let's go to Second Wind. Again, this is another skill card, so that you could choose to play this for his free card once per activation. It's a green card, costs 1 green fate to bring in, or 3 green fate if you want to gather with this card. Shuffle your discard pile into your draw deck, then draw a card and recover 2 life points. Notice it says recover 2 life points. This should be noted from our episode last night when we talked about Grey Rock and the white faded cards being able to heal. There's a difference between recovering life points and healing. The healing will actually do the same thing and give you back the life points, but it'll also cure the poison, which is what we talked about with the black enemies, the black faded enemies, and what their special ability is. So shuffle your discard pile back into your draw deck, then draw a card and recover 2 life points. This is out of his core set. I haven't really gotten into this, but the main heroes, of course, have 18 cards. Of those 18 cards, usually about 11 or 12 of them are of their primary color. And when I talk about primary color, I'm talking about the color that has 2 of the 3 fates on it. So for Vorheart, he would have between 11 and 12 red cards, and he'd have 6 or 7 green cards. So probably 2/3 of his deck approximately will be red cards, and 1/3 of his deck will be green cards, just so you have an idea. Because I haven't really, I don't think, covered that. So Second Wind, yep, it's a green card. It's got some really nice fate on it, so you might want to give it up. But, of course, if you can get it into play, you have a lot of cards that you've discarded, really useful cards. You want to get these cards back into your deck. You shuffle your discard pile. In your draw deck, you draw a card, and you recover 2 life points. So that is second wind. We can move on. Super cool power here. It's called Grapple. It is from Vorheart's core set, as you can see. Costs 2 red fate to bring this into play. It is a skill, again, which would play into his play a skill for free every activation. You can also gather 1 red fate if you choose. Grapple, deal 3 red damage. And neither you nor the enemy can take any more actions for the rest of the round. So obviously this is a card he probably wants to end his activation on if he's smart. Because once he activates his card, him and whatever enemy he grapples with will not be able to act for the rest of the round. So this might be a really cool power to be able to nullify some pesky enemy that's causing all kinds of problems. Or if it's got some super ability that's going to wreck your team's side, Vorheart can jump in there and grapple with it, and it won't be able to activate for the rest of the round. Not only that, but any damage that Vorheart takes is split 50-50 with the enemy that he's grappling with. So if he was to take an attack of 4 damage, he would only take 2 damage, and of course, the enemy he's with would take 2 of the damage. I should note that it doesn't specifically say this, but the way you handle odd number damage is, let's say you were attacked for 5 damage. He would take 3 the first time, and then the enemy would take 2. And the second time there's an odd number, then the enemy takes the bigger chunk. So the first time you take an odd number damage, you take the bigger chunk. The second time the enemy does. The third time you do. The fourth time the enemy does. And back and forth and back and forth. So great way to not only lock down an enemy that's problematic or causing issues, but also a way of also preventing himself from taking that much damage to begin with. Grappling. All right, let's look at another card here. This is from the Scouting Party. So this is one of his add-on green deck cards. It's called Scouting Ahead. It is, again, a skill which he could use for his special ability. Costs 2 green fate to bring this in, or you can gather 1 green fate with it. When a new area is drawn, you can draw 2 areas and put 1 into play and discard the other. Because you're scouting ahead. You're checking the upcoming area to find out what's a good location. So you can obviously see, when we talk about the different areas, there's a big difference between going into the bubbling water or running into the swamp people. It can be a big disadvantage or advantage depending on which one of these different locations you might end up going into. So that's what Scouting Ahead would be able to do. When new area is going to draw, you're going to draw a new area. You draw 2 of them, and you're going to choose 1 to keep and discard the other one. And let me tell you, there's some pretty bad areas that you don't want to end up in. So, and of course, there are some good areas that will give you some nice healing bonuses or able to find some loot or something like that. So there's good areas, there's bad areas, and then there's horrible areas. So this will actually be able to scout the area, find out which way is the best way for your group to head. Let's move on. Harsh Penalty. This is from another one of his add-on sets called Unmerciful Attack. Harsh Penalty, it's a 1-cost red fate. It's a skill card. Again, he could use his special ability. It costs 2 red fate. If you want to gather with it, you can gather 2 red fate. Deal 2 red damage against 2 different enemies. Until the end of the round, those enemies are fragile 1. So until the end of the round, anytime those enemies take damage, they take 1 extra point of damage because they're fragile. So Harsh Penalty will cause the enemies that you attack with this to take more damage from your allies for the rest of the round. All right, so that's harsh penalty. Let's go on to the truthful pass. This is again from the scouting party. And it is a 3-cost ability. And of course, you could gather with it for 3 of green fate if you wanted to. It is an action. So you could spend an action on your turn to place 1 exploration token on the current area. So again, if you're in, say, the bubbling water area, you're going to be there for 3 rounds. And it might be completely destroying your group, and you want to get out of that area sooner than later. Then you go to the truthful path, where you can place one of those exploration tokens once per round. There's other areas that you'll encounter that you might be there for 4, 5, 6 rounds, and some of them are pretty bad. So this could be quite handy to be able to help the group out and get out of a difficult situation. Very expensive card. Does cost an action, but you might want to take advantage of it. Let's move on. He's got a 2-cost red faded item, Cloak of Quickness. You can gather 2 red fade if you want. This is from the Unmerciful Attack group. Use this item and ready a different item. So you know how we talked about earlier, all items you can only use them once per round. Well, with the Cloak of Quickness, you can actually put a use token on this and take a use token off of something else and be able to use it once again, which could be very helpful and very advantageous to be able to get something back again so you can activate it one more time during the round. Yeah, that seems broken. Whew. He's got the Brutes of Striding. This is again from the Scouting Party green. It's a 1-cost green item, or you can gather 2 green fate with it. Use. When your initiative card is drawn, you can instead deal 3 ranged green damage to an enemy, and then shuffle your initiative card back into the draw pile. So your initiative draw, initiative card is drawn. You're thinking, I don't really need to go right now. With the Boots of Striding, you can just put it back in the pile, shuffle it up again, and you get 3 free ranged green damage on an enemy. So super cool. I think that would be a really cool power as well. We move on to another card from the Unmerciful Attack, Symbol of Heroism, 3-cost red faded item. You can gather 2 red fate with it. It has a usability on it as well. When you use a weapon attack action, you restore 1 life point. Again, it's not healing. You're restoring life points. Unless it says healing, you're not healing. And of course, we talked about this yesterday in Grey Rocks. Unless you're a white faded hero, you won't be healing, but you still be able to recover life. You just won't be able to remove poison or any kind of debilitating effects that are on you when you're restoring your life as opposed to healing yourself. So you could use this whenever you use a weapon attack to restore your life. And you notice that quite a few different weapon attacks that he has. I should mention that a weapon attack has to come from an item as opposed to like when you use something like harsh penalty is not a weapon attack. It is just assumed you're doing some kind of an attack with weapons and kicking and punching and whatever. But it's not. This is not considered a weapon attack because it's not coming from an item card. So only item cards will give you those bonuses for the symbol of heroism. So get that long sword out, get the great axe out, get all your different weapons out, and then anytime you use them, once a round, because again, this is a use power. Unless, of course, you decide to use your Cloak of Quickness to put your token on this, and then you can get your symbol of his heroism back out and do another weapon attack and then use it again. So all kinds of cool combinations. Let's go move on. Guiding Light. This is again from the scouting party. You notice there's kind of a theme with that scouting party. It's all about the areas, area events, traveling, exploration. Guiding Light. It's a 2-cost green skill. You can, of course, gather 2 green fate with it. When an area event is drawn, you can discard that area event. So there will be cards in the Darkness deck that are called area events, and they will alter and change some of the things that are happening. And you can basically disregard that area event by playing this card. All right, let's move on. Boom, boom, boom. This is a Unmerciful Attack. It is a 2-cost red fate ability. You can, of course, gather 2 red fate using it, and it has a use power, so once a round you can use it. When an enemy is damaged by an attack from a different hero, deal 1 more point of damage to that enemy. So basically, when your allies hit somebody and they're, I can only do 3 damage and we need 1 more point to kill it. Well, if this was in play and it was available, then because it's an ability, it has to be in play. You could use it to do that extra point of damage. So you can see all of his cards is about doing damage and buffing things up and causing enemies to attack him and stuff like that. All right, let's move on. There's a good one here. 3-cost red faded card from Unmerciful Attack. It's an ability. Again, it needs to be in play for you to be able to use the use power. You could, of course, gather 3 red fate if you decide you didn't want to play this card and you needed the red fate. Use power. When an enemy is defeated by this hero, gain 1 action. So we already talked about how Vorheart gets a free skill to get an action, free action when he uses a skill. Now he's got another way to get an extra action is kill an enemy. And of course, if he had his Cloak of Quickness out, he could use the ability on this to ready his always ready, kill another enemy, and get another action. So there's all kinds of super cool combos once I got a chance to look through his deck and look and see how things play that I'm sure people can come up with. So, again, super cool. Get him another action, and who knows what he can do with that extra action. Having extra actions are never going to be a bad thing. All right, Brilliant Banner. It's a 2-cost green faded item. This is from his core set. You could, of course, gather 2 green fate with it. And it does have an action. Recover 3 life points. So he could be taking lots of damage, causing enemies to attack him. He has the damage mitigation with his armor and his helmet and other aspects and other cards that he has. But he always has to get out the Brilliant Banner, and every round he can spend an action to heal 3 points and get his life points back. So that is the Brilliant Banner. Internal Power. This is from Surging Attacks. It is 2-cost red faded ability. Of course, you can gather 2 red fate with it. It has a use power. Damage yourself up to 3 life points. For each damage you do to yourself, add 1 damage to an attack. So this works really good with, not this, with, where's the other one? the banner, right? So he can take damage to himself, do that extra damage, and then just go to the banner, activate its ability, and recover the 3 life he just spent trying to help kill an enemy. So, lots of different combinations. I think it's going to be interesting to see when it's actually we get a chance to try it out and play it. But I think there's going to be so many cool things, so many different things that I can't even think of right now. But all right, I think we're coming up with the last card here, and that is the Weapon Master. It's a 1-cost skill. Again, you could use this as his free. It's part of his core set, as you can see, or you can gather 2 red fate with it. Attach this to a weapon you own in play and add 1 point of damage to each of your attacks with that weapon. Limit 1 per weapon. So you get your weapons out, you put your weapon mastery on them, you're doing more damage than whenever you activate your weapon attacks, and you end up killing enemies. You then get another action. Another action can be to go ahead and heal yourself with the banner. So many good, interesting combinations that I think so good. I think he's so broken. I'm trying to, you can only have 2 actions per turn, but he could end up having like 5 or 6 actions if everything goes well. He gets his free action to say like action surge, right? So he gets 2 more actions for free, so he's up to 4 actions. He spends 1 of those actions to kill an enemy, which then he uses his ability Always Ready to get another action back and use that card up. And then with his symbol of heroism, the Cloak of Quickness, he's simply going to put a use token on the Cloak of Quickness, ready his Always Ready, kill another enemy, and then activate Always Ready again to get another action. Oh my gosh, he's so broken. And of course, he's got the damage sitting out there with the Wounding Wounds, where he can help his allies damage enemies that they're damaging. He's got his Eagle Winged Helmet that he can use to attack an enemy that just attacked him. There's so many good things. So many good things. And of course, with his green abilities and taking the scouting party, where he's able to help with mitigating the locations and drawing different areas. He's so good. So good. And of course, come on. I think I have too many open. It's like breaking the game. And then of course, he can get some free damage by just putting his initiative card back in the, for example, one of the things might happen is he could literally be the last card drawn. And then he just activates his ability, puts it back in, gets 3 free damage on an enemy, and then, of course, draws his card again. So there's there's all kinds of combinations that I probably haven't even thought of that can use to this, and that's, like I said, that's not even all of his cards. I don't have time to, create every single one of his cards. There's a lot of cards they haven't really, talked about or shown. We'll show that off when we finally get a game going for you guys. Show you how that's played. But we kind of went through a bunch of the cards that his default sets use. So, yeah, that should be really good, I think. All right, well, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I need to cover with them. Yeah, he's got a couple other cards. taunting strike where he can taunt other enemies. He's got a bow that he can put into play that does 2 green damage to an enemy, and then he can spend another green fate to add extra damage to that attack. So he's got lots of different cool things. He's like I said, there's all kinds of different combinations because like I said, I haven't done all of his cards. But when I was doing the cards I were doing, I was like, oh, you know what? This would work really well with this power. Or this would work really well with this power. So it'll be interesting to see. What do you guys think of Vorheart? This, boots of striding, Ingle wing helmet. I'm going to just kind of close them out. And as I close them, we can relook at of course, the bleeding wounds, the ability to be always ready, Cloak of Quickness, symbol of heroism. Basically, anytime he weapon attacks, he's going to be gaining life back. That seems really good. Of course, the action surge. I mean, that's just really good. The weapon master, add extra damage to all of his weapons out there. Internal power, yes, right? So how many times have you played a game where it's like, oh, we need to do 8 damage, or we'll say 6 damage to kill this, but I can only do like 4 damage. Oh, okay, well, I'll just do the 4 damage. Well, not with Vorheart, my friends. He can just take 2 points of life damage and add those 2 points to his attack. Wow, that seems broken. Oh my god, that seems broken. Yeah, we talked about that. Area events. I should probably bring up, kind of giving you guys an idea. I don't know if we've actually showed you guys like an area event. Should I find one to show you guys? Let's see here. Where are we looking for that? We're looking right here. Area events. They're probably going to be on this card. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. I will just take a screenshot of this really quickly. Save it. There we go. So here's like, oops, that's not actually a, grabbed the wrong one. Let's find a nice area event. Oh, well, here's a very simple one. Yeah, we'll show you this. Pretty short, simple, and sweet. Draw the card, and it's Gathering Darkness event. Draw 3 more travel cards. So that would mean 3 more cards come out of the deck. So, being able to cancel a card like that seems pretty good. It's pretty good. Alright, well, that's a look at Vorheart and all of his super cool abilities. Oh, yeah, the Grapple. I think that is like one of the coolest powers I've come up with for the game so far. Is that grappling and trying to figure out how to make it doable without making it too overpowering or too weak at the same time. I think that grapple will be super cool, super fun. Nothing like grappling a mummy that's causing all kinds of problems to the group or something. That's that should be fun. Alright guys, what do you think? Leave us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Let us know how you would compare Vorheart with Greyrock. What you think of the 2 characters. Do you think they're going to play like a cleric? Do you think they're going to play like a fighter? And of course, next time we've got some already created for the next hero, which is going to be Sapphire. And I'm going to give you one preview of our cards just to whet your appetite for the elf mage of the group. So she's got Mage Hand. It's a 1-cost blue spell from her core set. Of course, she can gather 2 blue fate with it. She can take the top card of any discard pile and put it back on top of the draw deck. Now, isn't that thematic, right? Mage Hand, right? You cast the Mage Hand and it's going out and taking something and moving it someplace else for you. That's what I want to do with all the cards. Just make them, even though it's like D&D terms and D&D information and Pathfinder abilities and weapons and all that, I want them to be able to fit into the game and thematically with what they actually do. I'm not just throwing them in there just to throw them in there. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll look at Sapphire. I've got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 of her cards done. So hopefully in the next day or two I can get out a video on her and you guys can check out the mage and see what she does. And we'll see you guys then. All right, guys. Until then, take care. Have a good night. And we'll see you guys soon.